Before I say anything else in this video, I just want to give a short disclaimer that anything I say in this video is my opinion and there are no rules to art. You're free to make art whatever way you want and whatever style, whatever technique, etc. That being said, in this video what I'd like to discuss are some things that I often see people do on YouTube and that sort of annoy me, not because they're wrong or bad necessarily, but because these people are who do these things are making their own lives more difficult than they need to be, if that makes sense. So the first thing I want to talk about is canvas size. And to demonstrate, I'm going to make a really small canvas, 500 pixels times 800 pixels. What I would usually do is follow the advice of this artist, illustrator, concept artist, Suzanne, who I follow on social media and who gives really good art advice, and she always says that the smaller side of the canvas should always be at least 3000 pixels, and that's my usual rule when I create a new canvas. And the reason I do that is because when your canvas is really small, your line art really suffers. Like no matter how skilled you are and how amazing your line art skills are, and I see like really talented people doing this on YouTube quite often, that they do this really awesome line art and then they zoom in and you realize that the canvas is really small, and what happens is that the line art gets really pixelated. Basically, drawing on a canvas that's too small is like the easiest way to make your art look like it was done in MS Paint in 2006, because everything looks really pixelated and really low quality and sort of small. If you're going for pixel art, then sure, but otherwise, if you're going for like a more full illustration, then you really need to find a way to work on a bigger canvas. Now, in comparison, I made another drawing of the same cat doodle thing on a canvas of the size that I usually use, which is about 5000 times 4000, something like that. And then I brought the other thing next to it, and you can see it's really tiny. And then when I scaled it up to the same size as the other cat, you can see how pixelated it gets when it's scaled up, whereas the other one, I used the same brush size for the line art, and you can see that in the tiny one the lines are super thick in comparison because the canvas was so small. So if you want to get small details into your line art, or thinner or more delicate line art, then you really need to make your canvas bigger, and that's a really easy way sort of to make your art more detailed and sort of more crisp. Now, this is a really easy mistake to make. All you have to do is just not pay attention to what size your canvas is until it's way too late, which is exactly what happened to me with this drawing that I made a couple of years ago now, I think. Yeah, it says 2015 in the signature. So it looks fine maybe at this size, but at the moment you start zooming in just a little bit, you notice that it's like a pixelated mess. The line art looks awful. And it really bums me out because you can't really get prints or any kind of merch, even though I have a Redbubble store. If the art is too small, then it doesn't print well onto anything, paper or canvas or any kind of clothing or other items. So this would be basically like printed in real life, like a stamp-sized drawing. Now, if we compare this to a newer piece of mine with line art, we can see that we can zoom like way into the drawing before the line art becomes pixelated. It does look a little textured because I use a textured brush, but you can like get really up close and personal before you start seeing any individual pixels. So if we compare the dimensions of these two drawings, it's really easy to see that in the one with the pink background, the smaller dimension is over 3000 pixels, while in the other one it is like only 600 pixels, so you can see the problem. So basically, whatever art program you use, just pay attention to what size your canvas is. For example, you can see here in GIMP the default canvas size is something ridiculously small, and if you start drawing on that, you're going to really quickly realize that everything you do is going to look terrible unless you make the canvas bigger. Like, as you can see, this brush is only 1 pixel wide, and still it's already like this thick of a line, and then when you zoom in on that line, even zoomed out, you can see that it looks like garbage, and then zoomed in, it like gets worse the closer you get. So basically, too long didn't read, lesson of the day, make your canvas big enough, trust me. Next up on my list of complaints is what I'm doing right here. Drawing one eye, or one half of the face, or one half of the nose, and so on, and then just flipping it and kind of mirroring it onto the other side. And okay, I know you don't feel like drawing the other eye, and if you're just drawing for fun, then why not do that? But if you're actually ambitious at all about your art, mirroring the face is really doing yourself a huge disservice, both in the moment and in the long term. Because in the moment, actually no human face is perfectly symmetrical, and unless you're going for this kind of alien uncanny valley type of thing, it's actually going to look better and more realistic if you draw each eye individually and they don't match perfectly, because then it will look like more like an actual human being. Also, the angle of drawing the face straight on like this so that you can even do this mirroring trick. It's not a very interesting angle. Sure, you can draw someone occasionally like this, but if your every single drawing is just a face straight on, then you're not really improving much when it comes to actually understanding what the face looks like. Which kind of brings me to why it's bad in the long run. If you only ever practice drawing one half of the face, then you're never going to learn how to draw the whole face. Then I want to say a few things about coloring. So here I'm just selecting all of the areas that are skin tone in this drawing. I used a line art from a drawing I did a few days ago, and I see a lot of people on YouTube use this technique, and it's fine. You can, just select the areas you want to color. It makes it easier. Although I do recommend that once you've finished laying down the base color, you do the rest of it on top of a clipping mask instead of in the selection, because it makes it easier to see what you're doing. But now, the mistake that I am making now here in this demonstration is, instead of laying down all of the base colors first, including the background, I'm just picking out this one color area, or just the skin areas of the drawing, and I'm just starting fully rendering them with the highlights and the shadows and all the details and so on. And what this does is that, because color is relative and so are values, I can't really imagine what the values and the sort of hues of the color are going to look like in my finished drawing, because I have nothing to compare them to except the white background. And now as soon as I lay down this mid-tone in the background, suddenly the skin tones that I put on look a lot lighter. And to really illustrate that, I pulled up on the side the actual colored version of this drawing when I first made it, and if I color pick from the shadow areas and then the light areas of both the demonstration and then this original drawing, you can see that when I only had a white background to refer to, the colors I used are a lot lighter than I did when the background was this sort of mid-tone gray as it is in the original coloring. The other thing I want to say about coloring is that if you can, please try to avoid shading with black and highlighting with white. It really gives this kind of weird grayish skin tone, or, really any colors unless you're working in grayscale. Just the gray tones are weird and not great. And yeah, well, just use your eyeballs. This clearly does not look very good, but trust me, this is a very common beginner mistake, and I used to do this myself. As you can see here, the 2013 drawing is one of my first realistic digital drawings, and the 2015 version is when I learned, first of all, not to use the smudge tool, and second of all, to pay attention to what colors I'm using for the shading and the highlighting. Okay, that's about it for what I have to say for this video. Again, draw however you want, feel free to ignore me, and I hope everybody has a good day. Bye!